if I'm not mistaken, I think that your uncle against Fernando Vargas, that happened at the right time. That fight didn't even have to wait. That fight happened right at the right time, and
Didn't have
everyone still talks about that fight till this day.
all
Everyone
we
still
had
talks.
was HBO. Yeah. But that's what I'm saying. At that point, the boxing, it was more like HBO, Showtime. People would watch it and people would not care. It was a different era. Now it's different. People want to wait a little bit longer for those fights to be made happen. I still think, in all honesty, I still think it was way too early for Fernando to take that type of fight against my uncle, but the point that he started trying to disrespect and trying to pretend like my uncle wasn't a threat, that's what happens. You saw the results.
Yeah, you've heard comments about Fernando Vargas talking about your uncle, right? I'm not happy with those comments.
Well, I've heard them personally because Fernando used to be my trainer when I was an amateur. Fernando trained me the first amateur half of my career. I did I believe my first 10 fights with Fernando Vargas. And I used to hear him. He used to tell me. And I used to tell him, look, bro, my uncle never wore dirty hand wraps. My grandpa was the one that would wrap his hands. I'm like, I know what my grandpa would do. My grandpa was not a dude that would wrap dirty hands, or make hand wraps dirty. There was only one time, because the commission in Puerto Rico at that time was allowing you to tape up to the knuckle. And in the United States, they only do half an inch below the knuckle. So that's why they made him redo his hand wraps. I believe it was the Bernard Hopkins fight where they had to redo his hand wraps. But that was it, it wasn't nothing like, oh, they found him like Margarito, for example, you know what I mean, or nothing like that. So at what point are you gonna take the loss and you're gonna accept the loss? Or at what point are you gonna keep making excuses for it? You know what I mean? You could say, you know what, I was too young. I took the fight too early. If it would have been a little bit later on in my career where I was seasoned enough to fight a fighter like that, maybe the story would have been different. Fernando put up a great fight in that fight. You know what I mean? He put a great fight. But at the end of the day, you can't keep using the same excuses. Oh, dirty. Anytime I take a loss, anytime something bad happens in my life, if I keep putting excuses for what happens in my life or goes wrong, I'm not really being a man. I'm not really being accountable if I'm not taking into accountability the reason why I lost. I got to be honest because the public sees it. I don't have to sit here and tell everybody or justify my uncle because his career talked about it for himself.
Yeah, and I respect Robert Garcia for saying that he told Fernando Vargas not to take that fight. It was too early. And Fernando Vargas said, no, I want to fight Tito Trinidad. I want to fight him. And Robert Garcia said, no, you're not ready for him. You're not ready. But Fernando Vargas
Yep.
took the fight.
Yeah, and like I said, I commend him because not everybody steps in there with a fighter of that caliber like my uncle. You know what I mean? Like, even me to this day, when I went to Puerto Rico, he was talking about he wanted to spar me. And I told him, come on, OG. I'm like, you got power still, but as long as you don't lie there, you ain't going to do nothing to me. You know what I mean? I respect my uncle, though, even though I talk smack and everything with him like that, I respect him because of what he accomplished. I'm nowhere near what he accomplished. By my age, he was already 2 times or 3 times world champion. You know what I mean? So he's one of the greats. He's a Hall of Famer for a reason.
He's a legend. He's a legend. And it's hard to fill those shoes.
Hmm.
Yeah.